Breaking news out of the San Fernando Valley. The LAPD and city sanitation crews are clearing out a large homeless encampment.
Perhaps it's not surprising why RVs have become the final rung before someone falls out of the housing system.
70 million Americans are staring down a wall of ice, and thousands of RV families are sitting right in its path with nowhere safe to run. No basements, no thick walls, no backup generator. Just a thin sheet of aluminum between them and sub-zero death. This winter isn't just another cold season. It's a survival test only a few are ready for. When a major Arctic system sweeps across the United States, it's not unusual for 60 to 70 million people to fall under winter storm warnings simultaneously. These massive weather outbreaks typically stretch across 15 to 20 states, covering the Midwest, Great Plains, Mountain West, and sometimes deep into the South. Cities like Denver, Minneapolis, Omaha, Chicago, Kansas City, and St. Louis routinely fall into the highest risk zones. But in recent years, freezing temperatures have crept as far south as Dallas, Memphis, and even Florida's Panhandle. Storm warnings are issued whenever snow, ice, or wind chills pose threats to life or infrastructure. That can mean sub-zero temperatures, 40 to 60 mile-per-hour wind gusts, or snowfall totals measuring 6 to 18 inches in a single day. Road closures can stretch hundreds of miles, leaving anyone on wheels completely stranded. For RV full-timers, these warnings matter more than for households living in traditional homes. Most RVs are designed for three-season travel and struggle to handle single-digit temperatures, let alone wind chills dipping to negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit or worse. When forecasts announce storm warnings affecting tens of millions, it's more than a broadcast weather alert. It's a survival countdown. Homeowners bunker down, renters stock up, but the thousands of Americans living in RVs and vans must decide whether to outrun the storm, ride it out, or risk being stuck in a frozen dead zone with no heat, power, or safe legal place to park. Temperatures below 32 degrees Fahrenheit start the problems. Water lines freeze, propane use doubles, batteries drain faster. But when the mercury plunges into the teens, or wind chills go below 0 degrees Fahrenheit, RVs move from uncomfortable to genuinely dangerous. Many travel trailers and Class C rigs have insulation R values that are 1/4 of a normal home. Heat escapes quickly, and heaters run non-stop just to maintain 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit inside. A single propane furnace can burn through 1 to 2 gallons of propane per hour, which means a 20-pound tank can empty in less than 24 hours during extreme cold. Wind chills below negative 10 degrees Fahrenheit create life-threatening hypothermia conditions. At that temperature, exposed skin can freeze in 10 to 15 minutes. Inside poorly insulated rigs, interior surfaces frost over, water condensates on walls, and mold forms within days. Diesel fuel begins to gel around 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit, stranding trucks that tow travel trailers. Generator oil thickens. Solar panels stop producing meaningful electricity due to cloud cover and snowpack. RV manufacturers label only a limited number of models as four-season capable. And even then, the guarantee means they can function in freezing temperatures, not that they're safe for long-term living. For RVers without hookups, staying warm becomes a race against time, fuel supply, and weather conditions. Those who underestimate the cold don't get second chances. Over the last 5 years, RV living has shifted from adventure-driven choice to economic necessity. In states like California, Arizona, Texas, and Washington, tens of thousands of families and single travelers have turned to RVs because rent increases have outpaced wages by 3 to 5 times. In major metro areas, the price of a one-bedroom apartment is often $1,600 to $2,200 per month, while many RV parks offer monthly stays between $400 and $900. For people who lost jobs, face medical debt, or were priced out by landlords, the math pushes them toward wheels instead of walls. Layoffs in logistics, manufacturing, retail, and tech have accelerated the shift. In some regions, the number of people living in vehicles, vans, RVs, buses, has doubled since 2020. Some counties report that 1/3 of their homeless population now resides in vehicles. In summer, this lifestyle can appear manageable. Boondocking on public land, seasonal jobs, mobility to avoid heat. Winter exposes the harsh truth. RV families often have limited savings, often less than $500 to $1,500 to survive emergencies. When storms hit, they cannot afford to flee nor pay for heated RV parks. Most tragic, Many RVers have children or elderly relatives on board. RV living is no longer just retirees chasing sunshine, it's working men and women trying to stay afloat. Winter storms punish those already hanging by a thread. Unlike apartment buildings and houses, RV parks don't stay open year-round. In the northern half of the United States, 30 to 60% of campgrounds shut down from October through March to avoid frozen pipes and collapsed sewer systems. That closure wipes out tens of thousands of legal spaces where RVers might seek safety during storms. Even parks that remain open often reduce services. Water spigots turned off, sewer lines closed, bathhouses locked. Enter the next problem. Demand explodes. Winter-friendly RV parks operate at full capacity, and monthly rates increase dramatically. An RV site that might cost $35 to $45 per night in shoulder seasons can jump to $60 to $95 or $800 to $1,400 per month, depending on hookups and location. For growing numbers of RV homeless, that price mismatch is devastating. Many families simply cannot pay. Some parks impose stay limits of 14 to 21 days, forcing constant relocation. Others refuse long-term guests altogether, preferring tourists over full-timers. When locations shut down completely, displaced RVers flood into the nearest alternatives: Walmart parking lots, city streets, or unsafe back roads. Towns from Wyoming to Oregon now report dozens of RVs clustered in industrial zones and road medians every winter. What looks like a manageable lifestyle during warm months becomes a shrinking map of options when cold weather arrives. One of the most dangerous realities of winter storms is how quickly RVs lose the ability to generate and maintain heat. Most rigs rely on a three-part system: propane furnace, 12-volt battery power for ignition, and optional 120-volt electricity from a campground or generator. When any one of those fails, heating collapses. During storms, propane deliveries slow, gas stations close, and distribution trucks struggle with icy roads. RVers can burn through 40 to 60 pounds of propane per week in extreme cold, costing $60 to $120 depending on region. Batteries also drain faster in freezing temperatures. Lithium batteries lose 20 to 40% efficiency, while lead-acid batteries can freeze solid below -10 degrees Fahrenheit. Parks ban running generators at night due to noise, cutting off power during the coldest hours. Solar power becomes nearly useless. A rig with 400 watts of panels may produce less than 20 to 30 watts under cloud cover, or zero when covered in snow. When all systems fail, interior temperatures can fall from 65 degrees Fahrenheit to below 40 degrees Fahrenheit within an hour and reach freezing within 3 to 5 hours. Thousands of RVers face this scenario every winter. When temperatures fall below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, RV water systems start freezing almost immediately, and everything changes for someone living inside. Most RVs have exposed tanks, valves, and plastic pipes hanging underneath the floor. These lines can freeze solid in 2 to 6 hours during sub-freezing weather. Once frozen, water pumps stop working, faucets run dry, and toilets become unusable. Families are forced to rely on bottled water for drinking, cooking, and brushing teeth. But that's only the beginning. If water expands inside pipes and tanks, they can burst, repairs often costing $500 to $3,000 depending on damage. Sewer lines present another major health hazard. If gray or black tanks freeze, sewage becomes stuck inside the RV. This forces people to either stop using the bathroom entirely or risk overflowing tanks inside cramped living space. Even four-season rigs struggle unless they have heated underbellies, tank warmers, and fully enclosed lines. Features more common on high-end fifth wheels costing $80,000 to $120,000, not on budget travel trailers or older RVs now used as housing. Public restrooms are rarely available during storms. Parks close bathhouses. Gas stations lock bathrooms overnight. Cities shut off public water points to prevent freezing. This leaves full-time RV families improvising, melting snow to flush toilets, taking bucket baths, or simply going without running water for days. A growing trend, especially since 2022, is the crackdown on long-term RV residents in parks and campgrounds. Many private parks now limit monthly stays, enforce 14-day rules, or outright ban full-timers. Why? Municipal pressure, zoning laws, and fear of becoming quasi-mobile home parks. Some cities have quietly passed ordinances requiring RV parks to rotate guests every 14 to 30 days, preventing people from establishing residency. Others are imposing strict background checks, income proof, or employment verification, procedures once unheard of in the RV world. RV park operators report that long-term guests cost more to maintain, higher utility usage, more trash, slower turnover, and increased wear on septic systems. Many parks also prefer nightly or weekly tourists who spend 2 to 4 times more money than month-to-month RVers. In popular winter states like Arizona, Texas, and Florida, RV snowbirds pay premium seasonal rates, often $1,200 to $2,500 per month. Parks push out working-class RVers to make room for retirees fleeing northern cold. The harshest consequences hit families already on the edge. Many RVers live paycheck to paycheck and cannot afford sudden eviction. Being forced out mid-storm means parking illegally, sleeping in industrial lots, or risking fines and towing. When storm season collides with policy crackdowns, RVers face a double threat: cold weather outside and gatekeepers inside. U.S. cities, large and small, are now enacting new enforcement measures to prevent people from sleeping in vehicles. Between 2020 and 2025, over 140 cities introduced anti-camping laws, overnight parking bans, or time limits at public facilities like Walmarts, rest stops, and beaches. Many rest areas impose 8 to 12-hour limits, with police knocking on doors or tagging rigs that stay too long. In California alone, State Patrol conducts thousands of overnight enforcement contacts every month. Street parking bans are expanding rapidly. Cities like Denver, San Diego, Seattle, Portland, Salt Lake City, Phoenix, and Austin have all passed laws targeting long-term vehicle dwellers. Fines range from $50 to $300, with repeat violations leading to towing, and once an RV is impounded, owners almost never get it back. Businesses that once tolerated overnighters, Cracker Barrel, Cabela's, and some Walmarts, are posting signs banning it, citing security concerns and city pressure. The crackdown becomes deadly when combined with winter storms. RVers forced off legal overnight spots often end up on back roads or industrial zones with zero services, unreliable power, and higher crime exposure. Families juggling work schedules often can't move rigs every day, especially with frozen roads or broken tow vehicles. This new wave of enforcement reflects cities overwhelmed by vehicle homelessness. But to those living in RVs, the laws feel like eviction with nowhere else to go. Heating an RV through winter is brutally expensive, far more than outsiders realize. A single propane furnace burns through 1 to 2 pounds of propane per hour, and full-timers often run heaters nearly 24 hours per day. That means a standard 20-pound propane tank, which costs $18 to $28 to refill, lasts as little as 12 to 24 hours in severe cold. On a multi-day freeze, families can blow through $100 to $150 of propane every 2 to 3 days. Over a month, that's $500 to $800 just for heat, more than some renters pay for gas and electric combined. Electric heaters help, but only if you're plugged into shore power. RV parks increasingly charge for electricity, adding $100 to $250 per month to bills. For boondockers, generators are an even bigger burden. A generator can burn 0.5 to 1 gallon of gasoline per hour, costing $20 to $40 per day at current fuel prices. People often talk about RV living as cheap, but winter reveals the truth. Staying warm in a lightly insulated metal box is expensive, and failure is costly. If heat drops below 45 degrees Fahrenheit inside, water tanks freeze, food spoils, pipes burst, and respiratory infections spike. Most RV families live on tight budgets, many surviving on part-time wages, gig work, or Social Security checks under $1,600 per month. With heating eating half or more of total income, winter becomes financially devastating. Winter storms don't hit everyone equally. Solo RVers, especially younger, healthier individuals, can often adapt faster, move locations, bunker down, or get emergency work. Family RVers face challenges multiplied by 2, 3, or 4 people. Every child adds financial pressure: more food, more laundry water, more propane use. Families typically need heated rigs kept at 65 degrees Fahrenheit or above, not the 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit many solo RVers tolerate. According to several state homeless counts, 20 to 30% of RV dwellers include children. Tens of thousands of kids now live without permanent addresses. Parents cannot sleep in freezing conditions while their kids shiver under blankets. They must run heaters all night, buy extra propane, or relocate, increasing survival costs and stress. Elderly RVers suffer equally. Many retirees live on fixed incomes around $1,200 to $2,000 per month. When storms hit, medical conditions worsen: arthritis, heart issues, breathing problems. Some rely on electricity for CPAP machines, oxygen concentrators, or space heaters. A power outage becomes a medical emergency, not an inconvenience. People with pets add yet another layer. Dogs and cats can get hypothermia quickly. Pets restrict access to warming shelters, where animals are often banned. Single RVers may ride it out, but families and seniors face three outcomes: freeze, pay money they don't have, or flee into warmer regions. And with storms covering half the country at once, even fleeing is no guarantee of safety. Winter storms don't just bring cold, they shut down mobility. Once temperatures fall below freezing and snow begins accumulating, major interstates close. In 2023 and 2024 winters, highways like I-80, I-25, I-70, and I-90 were closed for stretches reaching 150 to 300 miles, sometimes for 24 to 72 hours. For families towing trailers, getting stuck behind a barricade means one thing: riding out the cold exactly where their rig sits, often with dwindling fuel. The cold also kills RV vehicles. Diesel engines begin to gel at around 15 degrees Fahrenheit, stopping fuel flow and disabling trucks. Tow vehicles with high mileage, common among low-income RVers, brake belts, freeze coolant, and lose battery power. Roadside assistance backlogs explode, with 5 to 10-hour delays during storms, if tow trucks can reach stranded rigs at all. RVers who rely on chasing warmer weather suddenly stop. They may have planned to drive south to Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, or Texas, but ice storms close passes into the southwest. Mountain corridors become death traps. Even minor mechanical issues can turn deadly. A freeze-cracked radiator, a dead battery, or a flat tire on a deserted interstate forces people to rely solely on whatever food, heat, and water they have on board. In traditional homes, winter means inconvenience. In RV life, disabled wheels can mean entrapment. Tow vehicles are the backbone of RV survival. But in today's economy, more RVers are towing with older pickup trucks, 12 to 20 years old, high mileage, rusted, and often long past warranty. As repair prices rise, these aging vehicles become ticking time bombs in harsh weather. A replacement transmission now costs $4,000 to $6,500. Diesel injectors $2,000 to $3,500. Even a basic alternator swap can run $600 to $900, thanks to parts shortages and labor costs. Because cost of living is crushing low-income families, thousands of tow vehicles are going without proper maintenance: bald tires, weak batteries, thin oil, failing brakes. In freezing temperatures, failures multiply. Diesel trucks face another major issue: fuel gelling. Without anti-gel additives, diesel solidifies at 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit, turning engines into bricks. Even gas trucks struggle with frozen fuel lines and dead batteries that lose 30 to 50% capacity in the cold. When a pickup breaks down, the RV becomes a prison. Without tow capability, families can't relocate to warmer regions or safer elevations. Their only option is to shelter in place, even when every weather map screams, "Get out." Roadside service has deteriorated too. Same-day repairs are nearly impossible. Shops are booked days or weeks, even in major cities. In normal life, a broken truck is an inconvenience. In RV life, especially in winter, it can be the final straw. When temperatures hit lethal levels, cities announce warming shelters and emergency housing, but RV residents quickly discover a hard truth. Most shelters don't accept vehicles, pets, or families with large belongings. Many RVers have pets. By some estimates, 50 to 70% of vehicle dwellers own at least one dog or cat. Shelters almost always ban animals for liability and sanitation reasons. Parents are then forced to choose: leave pets outside in sub-zero temperatures, or refuse shelter entirely. Another barrier: space. In large cities like Denver or Portland, warming centers often operate near capacity during extreme weather. Beds fill within hours. In smaller towns, shelters may not exist at all. RV families often keep personal items, clothing, tools, documents inside their rig. Shelters don't allow individuals to bring possessions, meaning all belongings in the RV risk theft or impoundment while the family is inside. Even worse, RVs cannot simply park outside shelters overnight. City parking bans remain active, and police may ticket or tow unattended rigs. Shelters aren't designed for vehicle dwellers. Meanwhile, RV parks close, campgrounds restrict stays, and legal parking locations dry up. While homeowners view warming centers as backup safety nets, RVers frequently hit a dead end. Come in, but abandon your rig, your pets, and your belongings. For thousands, that is no real option, and it leaves them exposed to the storm. Fuel is life when you live in an RV, and winter makes it scarce, expensive, or both. Propane, the primary heating fuel for RVers, spikes seasonally almost every year. In normal months, propane may cost $2.50 to $3.50 per gallon. During Arctic blasts, prices jump to $4 to $6 per gallon, or higher in rural areas with low supply. That means filling a 30-pound propane tank, normally $25 to $30, can suddenly cost $45 to $60. RVers burning 60 to 80 pounds per week may spend $150 to $250 just to stay above freezing. Diesel is worse. Winter demand heats homes, causing supply strain. Prices often spike 30 to 50 cents per gallon overnight, especially during multi-state weather warnings. Gasoline follows similar patterns, and local shortages happen fast. When roads close or delivery trucks can't reach towns, stations run dry. Electricity isn't stable either. Rolling blackouts have hit Texas, California, Oregon, and parts of the Midwest during recent cold winters. RVers plugged into shore power suddenly lose heat, with no backup fuel. Supply chain disruptions magnify every risk. If propane trucks can't reach refill stations for 48 to 72 hours, low inventory regions run out completely. For middle-class homeowners, higher heating bills are painful. For RVers living paycheck to paycheck, many with total monthly income under $1,500 to $2,000, price spikes are catastrophic. When the budget breaks, heat stops. Humans are not built to endure prolonged exposure to freezing environments, especially without reliable heat. In RV life, the body is under constant thermal stress. Even inside an RV heated to 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit, shivering burns more calories, reducing energy and immune response. Hypothermia starts when core body temperature drops below 95 degrees Fahrenheit. At below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, exposed skin can frostbite within 15 to 30 minutes. Fingers and toes start first, and many RVers report numbness even while sitting indoors because heat circulates unevenly. Cold air dries lungs and worsens respiratory diseases. Bronchitis, pneumonia, and flu spread faster in cramped living spaces. Hospitals see surges of winter illnesses every year, and RV families often lack insurance or dependable transportation for treatment. Nutrition declines too. Food spoils when refrigerators shut off, water is rationed, and cooking becomes difficult with frozen tanks. Some RVers cut calories to stretch supplies, weakening immune systems further. Sleep quality collapses. Studies show sleeping in cold rooms under 60 degrees Fahrenheit increases stress hormones, heart rate, and fatigue. Children and seniors struggle the most. Kids lose heat faster because of smaller body mass. Adults over 65 have lower circulation and slower reactions to cold. Every winter, news quietly reports deaths in vehicles, many never identified as preventable. For every tragedy seen on the news, dozens more are hidden off-grid on forest roads, Walmart parking lots, or rural farms. Winter does not end when the calendar says it should. In the United States, cold snaps regularly continue into mid-March and sometimes April, especially in northern states and high elevations. For traditional homeowners, this is an inconvenience. For full-time RVers, it's a countdown clock running out of time and money. Heating costs compound every week. If a family spends $600 per month on propane during peak freeze conditions, adding 4 to 6 extra weeks means an additional $400 to $900 survival cost. Money many don't have. Supplies wear down too. Plastic tanks weaken from weeks of sub-freezing temperatures. Batteries degrade. Tires develop flat spots or cracks. Clothing and blankets become damp from condensation and repeated use. Mentally, extended winter is crushing. RVers experience weather-trap stress, feeling stuck, isolated, and powerless, especially when roads south remain snow-covered. Seasonal work disappears. National park jobs, construction, and campground staffing restart in May or June, leaving a long income gap. Families who coasted through storms in December and January start falling apart in March. Some rigs become uninhabitable. People abandon them on state land. Police departments report hundreds of RVs left behind every spring in states like Oregon, Nevada, Colorado, and Washington. When winter refuses to let go, the system collapses for those barely hanging on. RV parks are full. Gas is pricey. Money is gone. Bodies are tired. This winter isn't just cold. It's exposing a crisis America refuses to talk about.
East Palo Alto could give people who live in motorhomes and RVs a permanent parking space. The city's considering a plan to provide parking and some services.
In just the last few years, the American middle class has been pushed to its breaking point. Families with full-time jobs, savings, and stable lives are now losing everything to rising rents, soaring interest rates, and collapsing wages. And millions are discovering the only roof they can still afford is on wheels. For over 2 decades, America's middle class has been crushed by a growing gap between income and expenses. Adjusted for inflation, typical workers' wages have grown less than 1% annually, while essential costs like housing, food, healthcare, and transportation have climbed 40 to 200%. Full-time workers earning what was once considered stable income now struggle to cover basic needs. By 2024 to 2025, average households spent over 60% of income on rent or mortgage in many metro areas, double the recommended 30%. Grocery prices rose nearly 25% in just 3 years, and utilities increased due to fuel costs and infrastructure pressures. Even dual-income households that once comfortably supported families now struggle as combined wages cannot match rising expenses. Families cut deeper, skipping medical care, reducing food quality, and delaying bill payments. With no financial buffer, a single emergency sends households spiraling into debt. When rent climbs again, many simply cannot keep up. Increasingly, families turn to RVs or vehicles as last resort affordable housing, hoping to escape relentless rent hikes. The wage cost mismatch leaves working Americans unable to afford stable shelter, despite full-time employment. This economic squeeze represents one of the primary drivers behind the exploding RV homeless population, transforming what was once middle-class stability into a survival struggle where even employed families face housing insecurity. Housing has become the most visible indicator of middle-class collapse. National median home prices hit record highs, rising over 45% since 2020, while mortgage rates more than doubled from roughly 3% to over 7%. This combination destroyed affordability almost overnight. A home requiring a $1,500 monthly payment now costs over $3,000 for the same buyer, before insurance and taxes. Renters face similar pressures. In 2025, rents jumped 20 to 35% in major cities, with some areas seeing higher spikes due to low inventory and investor-purchased housing. Eviction filings surged, reaching levels not seen since the 2008 financial crisis. Families once expecting to buy homes cannot qualify for mortgages due to debt-to-income ratios inflated by student loans, car payments, and credit card balances. Many attempting to downsize discover even smaller units have increased beyond middle-class affordability. Some families move into RVs believing it temporary, but rising RV park fees and maintenance costs quickly make situations permanent. As zoning restrictions limit overnight parking, many rotate between Walmart lots, rest areas, and industrial zones. The housing affordability collapse no longer affects just low-income earners. It now pushes firmly middle-class workers into unstable mobile living situations. Traditional homeownership has become unattainable for millions who once qualified easily, fundamentally reshaping America's economic landscape. Rent inflation is one of the strongest forces driving middle-class families into RVs. Over the past 3 years, rent rose at the fastest pace in U.S. history. National averages show increases of 20 to 35%, but in cities like Denver, Phoenix, Tampa, Austin, and Portland, year-over-year spikes reached 40 to 50%. These increases far outpaced wage growth, putting millions in positions where over half their income goes directly to housing. Landlords cite insurance hikes, property taxes, and institutional investors driving market rates as reasons for increases. Eviction filings surged nationally, up 30 to 40% in many cities. Families falling behind even 1 month face immediate legal action due to tightened landlord policies after pandemic-era losses. Once an eviction appears on a tenant's record, securing new apartments becomes nearly impossible. Desperate families turn to RVs, vans, or cars as no-credit check housing. An RV becomes cheaper than coming up with first month's rent, last month's rent, and security deposits often totaling $5,000 or more. But rising RV park rates, many now charging $800 to $1,500 monthly, still strain budgets. With rents rising faster than incomes, the middle class is being priced out of traditional housing at unprecedented pace. What was once affordable shelter has become unattainable for working families across America's cities. Employment instability has become a defining pressure on the middle class. Since 2023, companies in tech, logistics, retail, manufacturing, and healthcare collectively eliminated over 700,000 jobs. Automation and AI adoption accelerated layoffs across administrative and customer service roles. Remote work, once a lifeline for families, reversed as companies pulled employees back into offices, forcing some to quit due to long commutes or lack of childcare. Many workers keeping jobs saw hours reduced or shifted into part-time status without benefits, creating unpredictable income gaps. Contract and gig work replaced stable full-time employment in multiple industries, offering flexibility but no financial security. As households lose steady incomes, mortgage payments and rent quickly become unmanageable. The average American has less than $1,000 in savings, leaving no cushion for sudden job loss. Families falling behind rapidly accumulate credit card debt at interest rates exceeding 25%, worsening their situation. Once jobs are lost or hours cut, many turn to RV living to eliminate rent and reduce expenses. Some travel searching for seasonal work, while others park near urban areas where gig jobs are available. Unstable employment is now a primary trigger converting middle-class workers into RV-dependent households. The shift from stable careers to unpredictable income streams has fundamentally undermined the economic foundation millions of families once relied upon for housing security. Medical costs have become one of the largest drivers of financial collapse in America. An estimated 100 million Americans carry medical debt, and over 60% of bankruptcies involve healthcare expenses. Even insured middle-class families face deductibles of $3,000 to $8,000, making routine care unaffordable. A single emergency room visit can cost over $5,000, while hospital stays often exceed $30,000 to $60,000. These unexpected bills destabilize households already stretched thin by high housing and living costs. Many families choose between paying rent or covering medical debt payments. When income is disrupted through illness, job loss, or reduced hours, evictions and home loss become immediate threats. Parents with children facing chronic conditions experience even higher financial strain. Prescription prices have climbed steadily, with some medications rising 15 to 30% in recent years. Once debt collections begin, credit scores plummet, blocking access to new rentals. Families often turn to RVs as last options for affordable shelter when landlords reject them. Some begin living in RVs near medical centers to reduce travel costs for frequent appointments. Medical debt has transformed health crises into housing crises, directly fueling the surge of middle-class Americans entering RV homelessness. The connection between healthcare costs and housing instability represents one of America's most devastating economic failures. As housing costs break historic records, more middle-class Americans are turning to RVs, vans, and even regular cars as emergency housing. Over 1.5 million Americans now live in vehicles full-time, and the number rises sharply each year. What began as a fringe lifestyle associated with minimalism or travel has shifted into a survival strategy for working families, seniors, and single parents. For many, buying an older RV for $5,000 to $8,000 is cheaper than paying upfront rental deposits. Vehicle living also bypasses background checks, which many middle-class families can no longer pass due to medical debt, evictions, or credit issues. However, living in a vehicle presents its own challenges. Cities nationwide are tightening restrictions, banning overnight parking, and issuing fines that quickly accumulate. Access to bathrooms, electricity, heating, and water is limited, creating significant health and safety risks. RV parks that once charged $500 monthly now exceed $900 to $1,500, leaving many unable to stay long-term. Despite these hardships, the number of households relying on vehicles for shelter increases because they offer the last remaining form of semi-affordable housing. Vehicle as shelter living reflects how deeply the middle class has eroded and how many Americans now live one emergency away from losing everything. Traditional housing has become unattainable for millions. Rapidly rising interest rates have become one of the most damaging financial pressures on America's middle class. Between 2021 and 2024, the average 30-year mortgage rate jumped from 2.9% to over 7%, instantly doubling monthly payments for the same home. A mortgage costing $1,600 monthly now exceeds $3,000, putting traditional home ownership out of reach for millions of families who once qualified easily. Auto loans also surged past 10 to 14%, and credit card interest reached historic highs of 25 to 30%, making debt nearly impossible to pay down. These interest rate spikes hit simultaneously as housing prices soared, creating situations where even middle-income earners cannot buy or refinance. For many, adjustable-rate mortgages reset at much higher monthly payments, forcing families to walk away from homes they could once afford. Rising interest rates also pushed landlords' costs higher, contributing to rent increases falling directly on tenants. Families already struggling with stagnant wages find themselves drowning in expensive debt. Many choose an RV as temporary escape from escalating payments, but even RV loans have tightened, leaving buyers in negative equity. High interest rates have turned everyday borrowing into a financial trap, accelerating the decline of middle-class stability and pushing more households toward mobile shelter. The combination of high rates and soaring prices has locked millions out of traditional housing. As more middle-class families turn to RVs as affordable housing, a new crisis has emerged: rising repossessions and widespread negative equity. During 2021 to 2023, RV sales exploded as people sought cheaper alternatives to traditional homes. But many financed those RVs at high interest rates, often 12 to 18%, with long loan terms far exceeding the actual lifespan of vehicles. Because RVs depreciate rapidly, sometimes 20 to 40% in the first year, thousands of buyers quickly found themselves owing far more than RVs were worth. Repairs added even more financial strain. Major appliances, roof leaks, and electrical failures can easily cost $2,000 to $8,000 each, and many rigs built during high-demand years suffered from quality issues. When families lost jobs or fell behind on payments, lenders repossessed RVs at increasing rates. In many states, repossessions rose 25 to 40% since 2023. Once repossessed, families lose not just a vehicle, but their only shelter. Negative equity traps them with remaining loan balances even after repossession, making it impossible to qualify for another RV or apartment. What was meant to be a lifeline becomes another financial collapse. RV repossessions now represent a hidden layer of America's housing crisis, leaving middle-class families homeless with nowhere to go and debt they cannot escape. Across the United States, city governments are tightening restrictions on RV and vehicle dwelling, directly impacting middle-class families who rely on mobile shelter. Municipalities in states like California, Oregon, Washington, Colorado, Florida, and Nevada have passed new ordinances banning overnight parking, limiting stays to 2 to 24 hours, or designating no RV zones across entire neighborhoods. Enforcement has intensified through police sweeps, towing operations, and escalating fines that can quickly exceed $300 to $500. Once an RV is towed, retrieval often costs $1,000 to $3,000, which most families cannot pay, resulting in permanent loss of their home. Cities justify these measures citing public safety, sanitation concerns, and complaints from homeowners. But crackdowns leave displaced families cycling between Walmart lots, industrial zones, and dangerous roadside pull-offs with no legal place to park. Some states have even discussed statewide bans on long-term vehicle habitation. Additionally, RV parks are reducing long-term stays due to zoning pressures and insurance requirements, making it harder for families to live anywhere legally. These enforcement actions push already struggling middle-class households deeper into instability. Instead of addressing the core issue of unaffordable housing, cities are removing the only shelter option many families have left, turning a housing crisis into a policing crisis that criminalizes poverty and displacement. Seniors have become one of the fastest growing groups entering RV homelessness as costs outpace fixed incomes. Nearly 50 million Americans over age 65 rely primarily on Social Security, which averages around $1,800 monthly, far below modern rent costs, often exceeding $1,500 to $2,300 for one-bedroom apartments. Many seniors who spent decades in the middle class suddenly find themselves priced out of homes due to rent increases, property tax hikes, or medical expenses. Long-term care facilities now cost $6,000 to $10,000 monthly, forcing families to sell homes just to afford a few months of care. Those who cannot pay are often discharged, leaving them with no housing options. Thousands of seniors have purchased older RVs as last resort shelter, believing they can survive on limited income if they avoid rent. But RV living presents severe challenges: poor insulation, unsafe heating systems, lack of mobility, and high maintenance costs. Medical needs make unstable living especially dangerous. Reports show seniors dying in RVs during winter storms or heat waves because they have no access to climate-controlled shelter. The senior RV crisis is one of the most alarming indicators of middle-class collapse. People who worked their entire lives are now spending their final years in vehicles, not homes, representing a profound failure of America's economic and social systems. Debt has become a defining factor in the erosion of the middle class. As wages stagnated and expenses rose, families increasingly relied on credit to cover basic needs. By 2025, total household debt in the United States exceeded $17 trillion, with credit card balances hitting record highs over $1.3 trillion. Average credit card interest rates surpassed 25%, making it impossible for many families to pay down balances once they fall behind. Auto loan delinquencies reached the highest levels in over a decade, and student loan payments recently resumed, adding hundreds of dollars to monthly budgets already stretched thin. Medical debt remains widespread despite partial reforms. Mortgage and rent payments consume most income, leaving little room to absorb rising debt costs. When unexpected expenses occur like car repairs, medical emergencies, or job loss, families max out credit cards to survive. Once debt snowballs, credit scores crash, preventing families from securing new housing or refinancing loans. Many turn to RVs because they require no background checks or credit approval. Debt overload transforms temporary financial problems into long-term housing instability, trapping millions of middle-class families in cycles where traditional housing becomes unattainable and RV living becomes the only option left. The debt burden has fundamentally undermined economic mobility and stability for entire generations of Americans. Many middle-class families assume living in an RV will be affordable, but long-term RV habitation comes with significant dangers and hidden costs. Older RVs, often the only ones families can afford. Electrical fires are particularly common. Space heaters, old wiring, and overloaded circuits make RVs vulnerable to rapid ignition. Fire departments report increasing numbers of RV-related fires, many fatal, especially in winter when families rely on unsafe heating methods. Temperatures inside RVs can drop below freezing overnight, causing pipes to burst and creating unsafe living environments for children and seniors. Summer heat is equally dangerous. Without constant air conditioning, interior temperatures can exceed 120 degrees Fahrenheit, putting families at risk of heat stroke. Repairs are expensive. Replacing a roof can cost $5,000, a furnace $2,000, and electrical rewiring even more. RV parks with proper hookups often charge $800 to $1,500 monthly, making them too costly for families needing long-term stability. Those forced to park on streets lack safe water, sanitation, and electricity, creating serious health risks. The conditions highlight a painful truth. RVs were designed for recreation, not permanent living, yet they have become the last refuge for a collapsing middle class. One of the most shocking developments in the U.S. housing crisis is the surge of working families living in RVs, vans, and cars despite having full-time jobs. These are not unemployed individuals. They are teachers, medical assistants, truck drivers, service workers, retail managers, and tradespeople whose incomes no longer match the cost of living. Today, nearly 40% of Americans earning $50,000 to $100,000 annually say they cannot afford housing in their area. As rents and home prices climb far faster than wages, full-time workers are increasingly left without stable housing options. Many turn to RV living because it removes the barrier of credit checks, leases, and large upfront deposits. Some continue working traditional jobs while sleeping in parking lots or rotating between safe zones. In cities like Los Angeles, Denver, Austin, and Seattle, the majority of vehicle dwellers surveyed reported having at least one full-time income or two part-time jobs. But with limited access to showers, electricity, and stable parking, maintaining employment becomes a daily battle. Families with children face even more difficulty as school attendance, homework, and routines all suffer. The rise of the working homeless demonstrates that the crisis isn't limited to the poor. It is engulfing the American middle class, exposing how fragile financial stability has become in today's economy. Childcare has become one of the most financially crippling expenses for middle-class families, often costing more than rent or a mortgage. In many states, full-time childcare ranges from $1,200 to $2,500 monthly per child, with infant care costing even more. For a household with two working parents and one young child, childcare alone can consume 25 to 40% of monthly income. In some regions, costs exceed average monthly rent, creating impossible budget decisions: work full-time and pay nearly everything to childcare, or quit a job and lose income entirely. Many parents choose to move into RVs to reduce housing costs so they can afford childcare, but even this solution is unstable. RV parks close to job centers often have long waiting lists or high monthly rates. Families living on the street face unsafe environments for children, lack of heating, and difficulty maintaining routines. Childcare shortages have also intensified, especially after the pandemic forced thousands of providers to close. With fewer openings, many families face long wait lists, further disrupting employment. This structural imbalance, childcare costs rising faster than wages, forces middle-class parents into desperate decisions. Some leave the workforce entirely, while others downsize into RVs hoping to stretch budgets. Childcare has become a major, often overlooked driver of modern family homelessness. While RV living appears cheaper than traditional rent, many middle-class families quickly realize how expensive mobility can be. Most older RVs get 6 to 10 miles per gallon, meaning a single 200-mile trip can cost $60 to $100 in fuel, even at moderate gas prices. During fuel spikes, those costs double, leaving many families stranded and unable to relocate for work or safer parking, which can total $2,000 to $5,000 annually, even for minimal travel. For families living on tight budgets, these expenses can trigger financial collapse. When engine or transmission failures occur, repairs often cost $4,000 to $10,000, far exceeding what most vehicle dwellers can pay. As a result, thousands of families end up stationary in unsafe or illegal parking zones simply because they cannot afford to move. Winter and summer weather add even more burden. Heaters require propane refills, and air conditioners consume electricity unavailable without hookups. Families relying on battery power face dangerous temperature swings. Fuel costs and travel limitations trap RV families in cycles of instability, unable to reach job opportunities, safer areas, or legal parking zones. This immobility amplifies the crisis, turning RV living from a flexible alternative into a rigid, vulnerable survival situation. The collapse of the middle class and the rise of RV homelessness have created profound mental health consequences for millions of Americans. Living in constant uncertainty, never knowing where to park, how to stay warm, or whether the RV will be towed, creates chronic stress levels comparable to those seen in disaster survivors. Parents report anxiety, depression, and feelings of failure as they struggle to provide stability for their children. Kids experience disrupted sleep, difficulty completing schoolwork, and social isolation due to the stigma of living in a vehicle. Studies show that children experiencing housing instability are 2 to 3 times more likely to develop emotional or behavioral challenges. For adults, the lack of privacy, constant noise, and fear of police sweeps erode mental resilience. Seniors in RVs face compounded stress due to health issues and limited mobility. Families living in tight quarters experience tension, conflict, and exhaustion from the non-stop pressure of survival. The psychological toll is one of the least visible but most damaging aspects of the crisis. RV living strips away routines, safety nets, and a sense of home, key elements for emotional well-being. When the middle class collapses, it's not just finances that crumble, but the stability that supports mental health across entire families. America is now at a crossroads, and millions of lives hang in the balance. What changes you think America needs to stop this freefall? Tell us in the comments. And be sure to watch our next video, where we uncover the next shocking shift happening beneath the surface.